kids get to popcorn and he was a god. After saving planet, and after all that, he reclaimed his title.
Once in 6 days, give or take.
Am I,
The only ones who
I vow. All gods will die. That was very, very impressive what you did back there.
What if the God of Thunder faced his biggest battle not with a villain but with love itself? In Thor, Love and Thunder 2022, you'll discover epic action, surprising secrets, and hidden facts you probably missed. Stay till the end because Revise Wala is bringing you the complete review, amazing facts, and honest opinion in just a few minutes. Thor. Love and Thunder is a 2022 American superhero movie based on the Marvel Comics character Thor. It was made by Marvel Studios and released by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. The movie is the follow up to Thor Ragnarok 2017 and is the 29th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe (MCU). It was directed by Taika Waititi, who also co wrote the script with Jennifer Caton Robinson. The movie stars Chris Hemsworth as Thor, along with Christian Bale, Tessa Thompson, Jamie Alexander, Taika Waititi, Russell Crowe, and Natalie Portman. In the story, Thor is trying to figure out his life and finally find some peace after everything he's been through. But his quiet life doesn't last long. He has to jump back into action and team up with Valkyrie Testa Thompson, Cog Taika Waititi, and Jane Foster Natalie Portman, who has now become the Mighty Thor. Together, they must stop Gorr the God Butcher, Christian Bale, a dangerous villain who is on a mission to wipe out every god in the universe. Chris Hemsworth and Taika Waititi started talking about making another Thor movie as early as January 2018, shortly after the success of Thor Ragnarok. In July 2019, Marvel officially announced Thor Love and Thunder. Hemsworth, Waititi, and Tessa Thompson were all confirmed to return, and Natalie Portman was also announced to come back after not appearing in Thor Ragnarok. Waititi wanted this movie to feel different from the last one. Instead of making another movie with the same style, he wanted to mix a love story with a fun, over the top adventure inspired by classic 1980s action movies. He also used ideas from Jason Aaron's popular Thor comic book run from the 2010s. Those comics introduced Gorr the God Butcher and showed Jane Foster becoming Thor while she was fighting cancer. Jennifer Caton Robinson joined the writing team in February 2020 to help finish the script. More cast members were announced later that year, including several characters from the Guardians of the Galaxy. The movie was supposed to start filming in late 2020, but the COVID-19 pandemic pushed everything back. Filming finally kicked off in January 2021 in Sydney, Australia, with Barry Adidoin serving as the director of photography. The shoot wrapped up in early June 2021. Thor Love and Thunder had its world premiere at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood, Los Angeles on June 23, 2022. It officially hit theaters across the United States on July 8, 2022 as part of Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. After its release, the movie got mixed reactions from critics. Many people loved the performances by Chris Hemsworth, Christian Bale, and Natalie Portman, with Bale's creepy performance as Gorr getting a lot of praise. However, some critics felt the movie's visual effects weren't always up to Marvel's usual standards, and others thought the film had trouble balancing its serious emotional moments with its comedy. Even with those mixed reviews, the movie was a big success at the box office. It earned around 760.9 million worldwide, making it the eighth highest grossing movie of 2022 and the second highest grossing film in the Thor movie series. Gorr, Christian Bale, and his young daughter, Love, India Rose Hemsworth, are the last survivors of their race. They wander through a lifeless desert with no food or water. Even though Gorr never stops praying to his god, Rapu Jonathan Brew, his prayers go unanswered. Love eventually dies in his arms. Heartbroken and full of pain, Gorr hears the mysterious necrosword calling to him. The sword leads him to Rapuzu's beautiful paradise, where the god is living in luxury while his followers suffer. Gorr falls to his knees before Rapu and reminds him that his people stayed loyal until the very end. Their land turned into a wasteland, everyone died, and now Gorr is the last one left. He asks Rapu for the eternal reward that was promised to all faithful believers. Instead of showing kindness, Rapu laughs at him. He says Gor's only purpose was to suffer and die for his God, and that once one believer dies, another will simply take his place. Rapu also reveals that there is no reward after death, only death itself. After cruelly mocking Gor's pain, Rapu attacks him. At that moment, the Necrosword offers its power to Gorr. He grabs the sword and kills Rapu, swearing that every god in existence will pay for abandoning their followers. The Necrosword gives Gorr incredible powers, allowing him to control shadows and create terrifying shadow monsters. But the sword also slowly corrupts him and guarantees that he will eventually die because of its curse. The sword tells Gorr that if he can reach eternity by using the Bifrost, he can make one wish and wipe out every god forever. Meanwhile, Thor has been traveling through space with the Guardians of the Galaxy ever since the Avengers defeated Thanos. After getting back into shape, Thor enjoys fighting alongside the Guardians and goes on one adventure after another. During their missions, they visit worlds where many gods have already been murdered, leaving entire civilizations in chaos and civil war. Thor now fights using Stormbreaker as his main weapon. Thor, Chris Hemsworth, a former Avenger and the former King of Asgard, eventually parts ways with the Guardians of the Galaxy. The team includes Peter Quill, also known as Star-Lord, Chris Pratt, Mantis, Pom Klementieff, Drax the Destroyer, Dave Bautista, Nebula, Karen Gillan, Groot, Vin Diesel, Rocket, voiced by Bradley Cooper, and Kraglin of Frontier, Sean Gunn. Thor decides to leave after receiving an emergency message from Lady Sif, Jaime Alexander, one of Asgard's greatest warriors and his longtime friend. It turns out there are thousands of distress calls coming from different planets, all warning about a terrifying killer known as the God Butcher. When Thor reaches Sif, he finds her badly wounded after Gorr slaughtered the god she was protecting. Before passing out, Sif warns Thor that Gorr is hunting every god in the universe and that his next target is New Asgard. At the same time, Dr. Jane Foster, Natalie Portman, a brilliant astrophysicist and Thor's former girlfriend, learns that she has terminal cancer. Her treatments are not working, and her assistant Darcy Lewis, Kat Dennings, stays by her side. Hoping for a miracle, Jane travels to New Asgard after reading that Thor's enchanted hammer, Mjolnir, may have healing powers. Years earlier, Thor and Jane had ended their relationship because they believed they could never have a normal life together. Thor became busy protecting the universe with the Avengers, while Jane focused completely on her scientific career. Over time, they drifted apart, and Jane finally ended the relationship by leaving Thor a goodbye letter. Since Thor left Earth, Valkyrie, Tessa Thompson, the new ruler of New Asgard, has turned the once hidden village into a popular tourist attraction. Jane visits the broken pieces of Mjolnir, which were destroyed by Hela years before. Unknown to Thor, he had once placed a magical enchantment on the hammer, asking it to always protect Jane. Because of that enchantment, Mjolnir magically rebuilds itself and chooses Jane as its new owner, transforming her into the Mighty Thor. Thor returns to New Asgard just as Gorr launches an attack with his terrifying shadow creatures. He is shocked to see Jane holding Mjolnir and fighting beside everyone else. Putting his surprise aside, Thor teams up with Jane, Valkyrie, and Korg, Taika Waititi, his loyal Cronan friend. Together, they manage to stop Gorr's attack, but Gorr escapes after kidnapping several Asgardian children. Thor realizes Gorr has taken the children into the Shadow Realm. He also understands that Gorr is completely under the Necro Sword's influence and knows the sword will eventually kill its owner once its mission is complete. By this point, Thor and Jane have been apart for 8 years, 7 months, and 6 days. Thor is clearly annoyed that Mjolnir no longer answers to him and now only listens to Jane. The team decides to travel to Omnipotent City, where gods from across the universe gather, hoping to convince them to fight Gorr together. There they meet Zeus, Russell Crowe, the powerful king of the Olympian gods. Zeus refuses to help. He believes the gods are perfectly safe, hiding inside Omnipotent City, and thinks Gorr will never be able to reach eternity, the cosmic being who grants one wish to the first person who reaches it. To keep Omnipotent City a secret, Zeus orders his guards to capture Thor and his friends before they can leave. A huge fight breaks out. During the battle, Zeus badly injures Korg. Furious, Thor stabs Zeus with his own magical thunderbolt. Valkyrie grabs the weapon and the group escapes. As they travel toward the Shadow Realm to rescue the kidnapped children, Thor finally admits to Jane that he still loves her, wants them back together, and dreams of starting a family. Jane then reveals the heartbreaking truth: she has cancer. When they arrive in the Shadow Realm, they cannot find the children. Jane notices ancient carvings that explain Stormbreaker can summon the Bifrost and open the path to eternity. She quickly realizes that Gorr planned everything to lure Thor there and steal the axe. Jane throws Stormbreaker away to stop Gorr from getting it, but Gorr overpowers everyone and threatens to kill her. Left with no choice, Thor calls Stormbreaker back to him, allowing Gorr to steal it exactly as planned. Eternity is one of the most powerful cosmic beings in existence. Whoever reaches eternity first is granted a single wish. Gorr uses Stormbreaker to open the gateway to eternity. During the battle, Valkyrie is seriously injured, while Jane becomes extremely weak from repeatedly using Mjolnir. Every transformation into the mighty Thor is making her cancer worse and bringing her closer to death. After returning briefly to New Asgard, Thor realized that becoming the mighty Thor is preventing Jane's body from fighting the cancer naturally. Knowing time is running out, Thor heads alone to Eternity's altar, using Zeus's thunderbolt. He shares his godly powers with the kidnapped Asgardian children, allowing them to battle Gorr's shadow monsters while he faces Gorr himself. When Jane senses that Thor is about to be killed, she ignores the danger to herself and joins the fight one final time. Together, they destroy the Necrosword, finally breaking Gorr free from its dark influence. All three of them are then brought into Eternity's realm. As Gorr prepares to use his wish to destroy every god, Thor begs him not to waste it on revenge. Instead, he asks Gorr to bring his daughter Love back to life. Thor then leaves Gorr to make his own choice and rushes to Jane's side. Her illness has become too much, and she peacefully dies in Thor's arms. Seeing Thor's love and Jane's sacrifice changes Gorr's heart. Instead of destroying the gods, he uses Eternity's wish to bring Love back to life. As the curse of the Necrosword finally claims him, Gorr asks Thor to take care of his daughter after he's gone. After everything is over, the Asgardian children safely return home. Valkyrie and Lady Sif begin training the next generation of warriors, while the people of New Asgard build a memorial to honor Jane Foster's courage and sacrifice. Thor keeps his promise to Gorr by adopting Love and raising her as his own daughter. The two become heroes together, with Thor once again carrying Mjolnir, while Love proudly fights beside him using Stormbreaker. In the movie's mid-credits scene, Zeus recovers from his injuries in Omnipotent City. Angry that Thor embarrassed him, he sends his son Hercules to hunt Thor down and get revenge. In the post-credits scene, Jane Foster arrives at the gates of Valhalla, where Heimdall warmly welcomes her into the legendary afterlife, casting Chris Hemsworth as Thor Odinson. Chris Hemsworth reprises his long-standing role as Thor Odinson, the god of thunder and founding Avenger. marking his fourth solo outing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe after Thor 2011, Thor The Dark World 2013, and Thor Ragnarok 2017, plus major appearances in the Avengers films. In Thor Love and Thunder, Hemsworth portrays a version of the character navigating a midlife crisis, seeking purpose beyond heroism, while still wielding Stormbreaker and dealing with the emotional aftermath of losses from Infinity War and Endgame. The actor's physical transformation for the role has been a consistent hallmark across the franchise, with Hemsworth maintaining the muscular physique required for the Asgardian warrior through rigorous training regimens involving heavy weightlifting, high protein diets, and functional combat preparation. His performance continues the comedic evolution established under Taika Waititi's direction in Ragnarok, blending the character's traditional mythic gravitas with self aware humor, vulnerability, and moments of genuine pathos. Hemsworth's real life family members also appear in supporting capacities. His twin sons, Sasha and Tristan Hemsworth, portray younger versions of Thor in flashback sequences narrated by Cog, while his daughter, India Rose Hemsworth, plays Gorr's daughter, later associated with the entity Love, and his wife, Elsa Pataki, makes a brief appearance as a wolf woman in an early sequence. These familial cameos underscore the production's collaborative and personal atmosphere. Hemsworth's preparation for the film involved not only physical conditioning, but also collaboration with Waititi on the character's emotional arc, emphasizing Thor's struggle with identity, loneliness, and the desire for connection after the events that left Asgard destroyed and many of his allies gone. The actor has spoken in interviews about the joy of returning to the role while pushing it into new territory, including more introspective scenes that contrast with the high energy action sequences. Hemsworth's star power as a leading man in the MCU remains central to the film's marketing and narrative structure, positioning Thor as the anchor around which the ensemble revolves. His chemistry with co stars, particularly Natalie Portman and Tessa Thompson, builds on prior on screen relationships while introducing new dynamics with Christian Bale's antagonist. The role demands a balance of physicality for battle sequences involving gods, shadow monsters, and cosmic settings, alongside comedic timing for interactions with Korg and the Guardians of the Galaxy. Hemsworth's Australian background and prior work in action comedy hybrids informed his approach, allowing him to lean into the absurdity of certain plot elements without undermining the character's core sincerity. Across the film's runtime, Thor's journey intersects with themes of love, loss, and redemption, requiring Hemsworth to convey both bombastic godhood and quieter human like doubts. The actor's executive producer credit on the project further reflects his investment in shaping the film's tone and direction. Supporting details from production notes highlight how Hemsworth's comfort with Waititi's improvisational style facilitated spontaneous moments that enhanced the final cut. His portrayal draws loosely from Norse mythology while remaining firmly rooted in MCU continuity, incorporating elements like the tattoo memorializing fallen friends and family on Thor's back. The physical demands extended to wire work, fight choreography with multiple opponents, and performance capture elements for certain sequences. Hemsworth's consistency across more than a decade of portraying Thor provides a through line for audiences, making the casting a foundational choice that allows the film to explore character growth without reintroducing basics. Additional layers include his interactions with returning Asgardians and new divine figures, testing the limits of the character's power and morality, the actor's commitment to the franchise, including promotional efforts and behind the scenes involvement, solidifies his status as one of the MCU's longest serving leads. In ensemble scenes with the Guardians, Hemsworth's Thor contrasts their more irreverent styles, creating comedic friction that advances the plot. Overall, the casting of Hemsworth ensures continuity while enabling fresh narrative directions centered on the character's personal evolution. Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, the Mighty Thor, Natalie Portman, returns to the MCU as Dr. Jane Foster, a role she originated in Thor 2011 and Thor The Dark World 2013, now expanded to include her transformation into the Mighty Thor. This casting choice marks a significant development, adapting the comic book storyline in which Jane wields a reconstituted Mjolnir and gains Thor like powers while battling stage 4 cancer. Portman's preparation involved intensive physical training to handle the suit, hammer, and combat sequences, including taking the Mjolnir prop home for practice. Her performance balances the scientific intellect and emotional depth of Jane Foster with the empowered, armored warrior persona of the Mighty Thor, creating a dual role that drives much of the film's emotional core. The actress's return after nearly a decade away from the character was highly anticipated, reflecting both fan demand and the narrative opportunity to explore Jane's arc independently of Thor's. Portman's background as an Oscar winning performer, Black Swan, brings dramatic weight to scenes involving illness, determination, and sacrifice. In the film, Jane's journey intersects with Thor's as they confront Gorr, with Portman's portrayal emphasizing resilience and the personal cost of power. Family members of Portman also appear as new Asgard children in kidnapping sequences, adding another layer of production intimacy. The casting leverages Portman's established chemistry with Hemsworth while allowing her character greater agency and action hero status. Costume and visual effects teams collaborated closely with Portman to realize the Mighty Thor look, combining practical suit elements with digital enhancements for flight and energy projection. Her scenes require a mix of dramatic monologues, scientific exposition, and high stakes battles against shadow creatures and gods. Portman's approach draws from the comics' exploration of mortality and heroism, translating those themes into the MCU's more humorous framework without losing sincerity. The dual nature of the role, ordinary human scientist versus divine warrior, demands nuanced shifts in posture, voice, and energy that Portman executes effectively. Production anecdotes note her dedication to authenticity in portraying the physical and emotional toll of cancer treatment alongside superhero duties. This casting expands the representation of female heroes in the Thor franchise, positioning Jane as a co-lead rather than a supporting love interest. Interactions with Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie further develop alliances among the female characters. Portman's prior MCU experience ensures seamless integration into the larger continuity, including references to earlier events involving the Bifrost and Asgard. The role also involves collaboration with Waititi on tonal balance, blending pathos with the film's signature irreverence. Visual design for the Mighty Thor armor incorporates iconic comic elements while fitting the cinematic aesthetic of New Asgard and cosmic locales. Portman's performance anchors the love aspect of the title, exploring themes of connection, loss, and legacy, supporting cast members in medical and scientific contexts, interact with her character to ground the fantastical elements. The casting decision underscores Marvel's willingness to adapt complex comic arcs involving illness and empowerment for a broad audience. Portman's global recognition as both a dramatic actress and franchise player enhances the film's appeal across demographics. Detailed fight training prepared her for sequences involving hammer throws, lightning generation, and team based combat. Overall, Portman's return and expansion into the Mighty Thor role represents one of the most significant casting evolutions in the Thor series. Christian Bale as Gorr the God Butcher. Christian Bale takes on the primary antagonistic role of Gorr the God Butcher, a character originating from the comics as a scarred, necrosword wielding figure driven by the desire to eradicate all gods after personal tragedy. Bale's casting brings an intense, transformative performance style to the MCU, known from roles in the Dark Knight trilogy and other method driven portrayals. In the film, Gorr is depicted with practical makeup by Odd Studio, featuring pale, emaciated features and a Nosferatu inspired attitude, deliberately altered from the comics' Voldemort like appearance to avoid direct comparisons. Bale drew inspiration from the Aphex Twin music video for Come to Daddy to inform the character's unsettling presence and vocal delivery. The role requires conveying profound grief, rage, and single minded determination as Gore's quest begins with the loss of his daughter and expands into a cosmic vendetta. Bale's physical commitment includes extensive prosthetic work and performance under heavy makeup, limiting facial mobility while emphasizing body language and eyes. His scenes dominate the film's darker narrative threads, contrasting the comedic elements surrounding Thor and the Guardians. The casting of an Oscar winning actor of Bale's caliber elevates the villain beyond typical MCU antagonists, providing a formidable intellectual and physical threat. Interactions with Hemsworth's Thor highlight philosophical clashes about the nature of gods and mortality. Bale's preparation involved studying the comic source material while adapting it to Waititi's vision of a layered, formidable antagonist. Family involvement extends here as well, with Bale's children appearing in supporting capacities related to Gore's backstory. The Necrosword and shadow manipulation abilities demand complex visual effects integration with Bale's live action performance. His portrayal emphasizes the character's humanity amid monstrous actions, creating moral ambiguity that challenges the heroes. Production design for Gore's environments, including barren worlds and the Shadow Realm, complements Bale's intense presence. The actor's history of extreme physical transformations informed his approach to the emaciated look and combat sequences. Dialogue delivery mixes quiet menace with explosive outbursts, requiring precise control under prosthetic constraints. Bale's star power as a dramatic heavyweight attracts audiences seeking more serious tones within the franchise. The role serves as a catalyst for the ensemble's unity, forcing alliances among Thor, Jane, Valkyrie, and others. Behind the scenes accounts note Bale's professionalism and immersion on set, contributing to the authenticity of Gore's threat level. Visual effects teams work closely with him to match practical makeup with digital shadow entities. The casting choice allows for a villain whose personal motivations resonate beyond pure evil, tying into themes of loss that parallel Jane's and Thor's arcs. Bale's performance in key confrontations, including battles involving divine weapons and cosmic entities, showcases his ability to convey power through stillness and sudden violence. Supporting elements like Gore's temporary alliance or manipulations of other characters further demonstrate the depth Bale brings. Overall, Bale's embodiment of Gore establishes one of the more memorable MCU antagonists through committed physicality and emotional intensity. Tessa Thompson as King Valkyrie. Tessa Thompson returns as Valkyrie, now elevated to King of New Asgard following the events of Avengers Endgame. First introduced in Thor Ragnarok, Thompson's portrayal combines fierce warrior skills, dry wit, and leadership responsibilities. In Love and Thunder, the character balances governance of the refugee Asgardian community with active participation in the fight against Gorr. Thompson's casting continues the progressive representation established in Ragnarok, with Valkyrie as a queer warrior woman of color in a position of authority. Her performance maintains the sass and combat prowess that define the character while exploring the burdens of kingship and personal identity. Physical preparation for the role involves sword fighting, horseback or steed based action, and team combat sequences alongside Thor and the Mighty Thor. Thompson's chemistry with Hemsworth and Portman drives ensemble dynamics, creating a core trio of protagonists. The character's arc includes moments of vulnerability regarding past losses and the responsibilities of protecting New Asgard's people, including children targeted by Gorr. Costume design updates the Valkyrie armor to reflect royal status while retaining functional battle ready elements. Thompson's background in independent film and major franchises informs her ability to ground fantastical elements in relatable human or Asgardian emotions. Scenes involving New Asgard tourism and community life showcase her authoritative yet approachable presence. The casting ensures continuity of one of the franchise's most popular supporting characters, expanding her role significantly. Interactions with returning figures like Sif and Korg add layers of history and humor. Thompson has discussed the importance of authentic representation in interviews related to the film, aligning with broader MCU efforts. Fight choreography for Valkyrie emphasizes agile, precise movements, contrasting Thor's more brute force style. Her leadership in coordinating defenses and alliances contributes to the plot's progression. Visual effects integrate her sequences with cosmic travel and shadow battles. The dual aspects of king and warrior demand shifts between political negotiation and frontline action. Thompson's improvisational skills under Waititi's direction allow for natural comedic beats amid high stakes drama. Family and community themes in New Asgard resonate through her character's protective instincts. Overall, Thompson's continued casting as Valkyrie solidifies the character as a cornerstone of the post Ragnarok Thor films. Taika Waititi as Korg, Old Kron God, voice director right. Taika Waititi multitasks as director, co-writer with Jennifer Caton Robinson, and the voice and motion capture performer for Korg. The rock-like Cronan warrior first introduced in Thor, Ragnarok. Waititi's casting as Korg continues the character's role as comic relief and loyal companion to Thor, with expanded screen time and narrative function as a storyteller and ally. The character's dry, understated humor provides levity throughout the film's more serious beats involving Gorr and Jane's illness. Waititi's dual role behind and in front of the camera allows seamless integration of improvisation and tonal consistency. As director, his vision shapes the film's blend of mythology, comedy, romance, and action. Building on the success of Ragnarok, the old Cronan god voice work adds another layer of divine satire. Waititi's children appear as new Asgard kids, continuing the family involved production approach. His performance as Korg involves distinctive vocal timing and physicality for the CGI character, coordinated with visual effects teams. The casting of Waititi in the role ensures the humor remains organic to his directorial style. Korg's interactions with Thor, the Guardians, and others generate many of the film's memorable comedic set pieces. As writer and director, Waititi adapts comic elements while prioritizing character relationships and visual spectacle. His background in independent comedy and previous MCU work informs the balance of irreverence and heart. Production under Waititi involved location shooting in Australia and extensive post production for effects heavy sequences. The character of Cog serves as both sidekick and emotional support, reflecting themes of friendship and found family. Waititi's on-set presence as director facilitated real-time adjustments to performances and improvisations. The dual credit as performer and filmmaker is a rare but effective choice that maintains continuity from Ragnarok. Korg's rock physiology and history of gladiatorial combat provide opportunities for both humor and action. Overall, Waititi's multifaceted involvement defines the film's creative identity. Russell Crowe as Zeus. Russell Crowe portrays Zeus, the king of the Olympian gods, in a significant supporting role that expands the MCU's depiction of pantheons beyond Asgard. Crowe's casting brings gravitas and classical intensity to the divine figure, known for roles in historical epics and dramatic thrillers. In the film, Zeus appears in a key sequence involving the Council of Gods or similar gathering, showcasing arrogance, power, and eventual confrontation with Thor's group. The character's design incorporates traditional mythological elements with MCU flair, including elaborate costuming and effects for divine abilities. Crowe's performance balances regal authority with moments of vulnerability or comic undercutting, typical of Waititi's style. Preparation for the role involved studying classical mythology while adapting to the film's tonal requirements. Scenes with Crow highlight the broader cosmic stakes of Gorr's crusade against all gods. His interactions with Thor and others underscore themes of divine responsibility and hubris. The casting of an actor of Crow's stature signals the importance of the Olympian introduction for future MCU projects. Visual effects enhance Zeus's presence with lightning, thunder, and other elemental displays. Crow's Australian connection with Hemsworth adds an off screen rapport that translates to on screen dynamics. The role requires commanding presence in ensemble divine scenes. Costume and makeup teams created a distinctive look, distinguishing Olympian aesthetics from Asgardian ones. Crow's delivery of dialogue mixes bombast with precision, fitting the character's mythic status. Overall, this casting choice opens new mythological avenues while providing a memorable supporting turn. Jamie Alexander as Sif. Jamie Alexander returns as Lady Sif, the Asgardian warrior and longtime ally of Thor from the earlier films. Her casting maintains continuity for the character, who has appeared across the Thor trilogy and related media. In Love and Thunder, Sif participates in the defense of New Asgard and the broader conflict with Gorr. Alexander's performance emphasizes the warrior's loyalty, combat skills, and evolving role in the post Asgard community. Physical demands include swordplay and ensemble battle sequences. The character's history with Thor provides emotional grounding for certain interactions. Costume design updates Sif's armor for the current narrative context. Alexander's return strengthens the film's ties to previous entries. Supporting scenes explore Sif's place among the remaining Asgardians under Valkyrie's leadership. Overall, the casting reinforces established relationships within the Thor mythos. Idris Elba as Heimdall. Idris Elba makes a return appearance as Heimdall, the all seeing guardian, in a capacity that may involve flashbacks or spectral elements given the character's fate in prior films. Elba's casting continues the authoritative presence established since Thor 2011. His deep voice and commanding physicality suit the role's mythic stature. Even in limited capacity, the appearance provides emotional resonance for Thor and the Asgardian survivors. Visual effects may enhance any ethereal aspects of the performance. Elba's prior work in the franchise ensures consistent characterization. The inclusion honors the character's importance to the broader narrative. Chris Pratt as Peter Quill, Star Lord. Chris Pratt reprises his role as Peter Quill, Star Lord, leading the Guardians of the Galaxy contingent that crosses paths with Thor. Pratt's casting brings the charismatic pop culture referencing outlaw energy that defined the Guardians films. In Love and Thunder, the Guardians provide early support and comic interplay with Thor. Pratt's performance maintains the character's blend of bravado and underlying vulnerability. Ensemble scenes with the other Guardians showcase group dynamics. Costume and effects for Quill include the signature helmet and weaponry. Pratt's established MCU presence facilitates seamless crossover. Interactions with Hemsworth highlight contrasting heroic styles. Overall, the casting integrates Guardians' continuity into the Thor storyline. Dave Bautista as Drax Dave Bautista returns as Drax the Destroyer, contributing literal minded humor and formidable combat abilities to the Guardians ensemble. Bautista's physical presence and deadpan delivery define the character. Scenes involving Drax emphasize strength based action and comedic misunderstandings. The casting continues the successful portrayal from previous Guardians and Avengers films. Training for the role focuses on maintaining the character's imposing physique and fight style. Bautista's chemistry with the Guardians cast enhances group sequences. Overall, Drax's inclusion bolsters the film's action comedy balance. Karen Gillan as Nebula Karen Gillan reprises. Nebula, the cybernetically enhanced former antagonist turned ally. Gillan's performance captures the character's dry wit, evolving humanity, and combat prowess. Makeup and effects for Nebula's appearance remain consistent with prior films. Scenes explore her place within the Guardians and interactions with Thor's group. Gillan's casting ensures continuity of one of the MCU's more complex supporting characters. Physical preparation includes wire work and weapons training. Overall, Nebula adds depth and tension to ensemble dynamics. Pom Klementieff as Mantis Pom. Klementieff returns as Mantis, the empathic Guardians member, known for her unique mannerisms and emotional insight. Clementieff's physical comedy and sincere delivery define the role. Antennae effects and costume maintain visual consistency. Scenes leverage Mantis's abilities for plot and humor. The casting continues the character's endearing presence across Guardians films. Overall, Mantis contributes to the film's lighter moments and group cohesion. Sean Gunn as Kraglin on set Rocket. Sean Gunn portrays Kraglin of Frontier while also providing on-set reference for Rocket. Gunn's dual contribution supports both live action and CGI characters. Kraglin's role expands slightly within the Guardians group. The casting maintains continuity from previous appearances. Gunn's familiarity with the material aids seamless integration. Overall, this multifaceted involvement supports production efficiency and character consistency. Vin Diesel as Groot voice. Vin Diesel provides the voice of Groot, continuing the minimalist yet expressive performance. Vocal work focuses on variations of I am Groot with emotional nuance. CGI animation coordinates with Diesel's recording sessions. The casting preserves the character's iconic status within the Guardians. Overall, Groot adds visual and emotional layers to group sequences. Bradley Cooper as Rocket. Voice Bradley Cooper voices Rocket Raccoon, delivering the sarcastic street smart performance established in prior films. Recording sessions capture the character's rapid fire dialogue and attitude. CGI realization matches Cooper's vocal energy. The casting ensures the Guardian's core dynamic remains intact. Overall, Rocket contributes significant humor and tactical insight. Carly Reese portrays Meek, the insectoid ally from Ragnarok. The role involves performance capture or practical elements for the character's unique physiology. Reese's casting continues the supporting Asgardian Cronan adjacent presence. Scenes with Meek provide additional comic and action support. Overall, the inclusion rounds out the returning ensemble from previous Thor films. Kat Dennings as Darcy Kat Dennings returns as Darcy Lewis, Jane Foster's longtime friend and scientific colleague. Dennings' comedic timing and grounded presence contrast the film's mythic elements. Scenes involving Darcy provide human scale perspective on Jane's transformation and illness. The casting reconnects with early Thor film continuity. Overall, Darcy anchors emotional and scientific aspects of Jane's arc. Brett Goldstein as Hercules Brett Goldstein appears as Hercules in a post credits or cameo capacity, introducing another mythological figure. Goldstein's casting, known from Ted Lasso, brings contemporary comedic energy to the classical hero. The role sets up potential future storylines. Visual design draws from traditional Hercules imagery with MCU updates. Overall, this casting expands the pantheon further. Stellan Skarsgård as Selvig. Stellan Skarsgård makes a return as Eric Selvig, the astrophysicist ally of Jane and Thor. Skarsgård's authoritative yet eccentric presence continues from earlier films. Limited scenes provide scientific or advisory support. The casting maintains franchise continuity. Overall, Selvig offers a link to the series' scientific roots. Luke Hemsworth, as actor Thor Luke Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth's brother, portrays an Asgardian stage actor playing Thor in a theatrical production within New Asgard. The metacasting adds humor and family connection. Performance involves exaggerated heroic posing and dialogue. Overall, it contributes to the film's self referential comedy. Matt Damon as actor Loki. Matt Damon reprises his cameo as the Asgardian actor, portraying Loki in the stage play, continuing from Ragnarok. Damon's deadpan delivery enhances the comedic interlude. The casting leverages star power for a brief but memorable bit. Overall, it reinforces the film's playful tone. Sam Neill as actor Odin. Sam Neill returns as the Asgardian actor playing Odin in the theatrical sequence. Neil's gravitas contrasts the absurdity of the play. The casting continues the Ragnarok cameo tradition. Overall, it adds to the meta humor surrounding Asgardian culture. Melissa McCarthy, as actor Hela Melissa McCarthy, joins the stage actors as the performer portraying Hela. McCarthy's comedic energy amplifies the sequence's absurdity. Her casting, alongside husband Ben Falcone, creates additional behind the scenes synergy. Overall, it expands the theatrical ensemble for heightened humor. Ben Falcone as Asgardian stage manager. Ben Falcone appears as overseeing the theatrical production. The role provides practical comedic support within the meta sequence. Falcone's casting alongside McCarthy adds personal connection. Overall, it grounds the stage play in logistical humor. Suran Jayman as Asgardian stagehand. Suran Jayman portrays an Asgardian stagehand assisting with the theatrical production. The supporting role contributes to the scene's background activity and authenticity. Overall, it populates the new Asgard cultural moment. Natasha Cheng as Asgardian stagehand. Natasha Cheng appears as another Asgardian stagehand in the theatrical sequence. The casting fills out the ensemble of background performers. Overall, it enhances the lived-in feel of New Asgard. Stephen Curry as King Yakan. Stephen Curry portrays King Yakan in a supporting capacity within the broader divine or alien contexts. The casting adds distinctive presence to secondary roles. Overall, it contributes to the film's expansive world building. Bobby Holland Hanton as Habuska. The horrible Bobby Holland Hanton plays Habuska the Horrible, a character involved in action or antagonistic sequences. Physical performance suits the role's demands. Overall, it supports the film's combat variety. Daley Pearson as Daryl, the tour guide. Daley Pearson appears as Daryl, the tour guide in New Asgard sequences, providing comedic exposition and local flavor. The casting enhances the tourist oriented portrayal of the community. Overall, it grounds the setting in everyday humor. Diane Close as Asgard tourist. Diane Close portrays an Asgard tourist, contributing to the background life of New Asgard. The role populates crowd scenes with authenticity. Overall, it supports the film's depiction of post Asgard society. Greg Mitchell as Asgard tourist. Greg Mitchell appears as another Asgard tourist in community sequences. The casting fills supporting positions for realism. Overall, it enhances environmental storytelling. Brig Winderbaum, Maisie Winderbaum, Isaac Winderbaum as ship tourists. These performers portray ship tourists in travel or arrival sequences. Family casting elements may apply. Overall, they contribute to transitional scenes and world density. Alanis Longborello as ship tourist. Alanis Longborello appears as a ship tourist, supporting crowd and travel sequences. Overall, the role aids visual continuity in transit scenes. Emmeline Luca Bale as Infinity Connes vendor. Emmeline Luca Bale as Luca Bale portrays an Infinity Connes vendor, adding quirky commercial humor to New Asgard or related settings. The casting continues familial involvement. Overall, it injects light world building detail. Kieron L. Dyer as Axel. Kieron L. Dyer plays Axel, a supporting character in New Asgard or related community scenes. The role contributes to character interactions and plot progression involving locals. Overall, it expands the supporting ensemble. India Rose Hemsworth as Gorr's daughter. India Rose Hemsworth portrays Gorr's daughter, a pivotal figure in the antagonist's backstory whose loss motivates his crusade. The young actress's performance in emotional flashbacks carries significant narrative weight. Familial connection to Chris Hemsworth adds production intimacy. Overall, the casting personalizes Gorr's tragedy. Simon Russell Beale as Dionysus. Simon Russell Beale appears as Dionysus, contributing to the Council of Gods or Olympian sequences. The casting brings classical theatrical experience to the divine ensemble. Overall, it enriches the mythological tapestry. Manny Sparrow as chemo ward patient Manny Sparrow portrays a chemo ward patient in scenes related to Jane Foster's medical journey. The role grounds the film's exploration of illness in realistic supporting performances. Overall, it supports the emotional authenticity of Jane's arc. Johnny Brew as Rapu. Johnny Brew plays Rapu, a character involved in Gorr's early story or divine confrontations. The casting fills specific narrative needs in the antagonist origin. Overall, it advances the plot's foundational tragedy. Additional supporting cast and ensemble contributions. The film features an extensive supporting and background cast that populates New Asgard, cosmic locations, medical facilities, and divine gatherings. Performers such as Andrew Crawford as Flower God, Shanique Grayling as Young Frigga, Brooke Satchwell as Indigarian Woman Glenda, Elsa Pataki as Wolf Woman, Zia Kelly as Pirate Woman, Rosangela Fasano as Alien Woman, and others contribute to the rich visual and cultural diversity of the settings. Young performers, including children of principal cast members, appear as New Asgard kids, enhancing the personal stakes of Gorr's attacks on the community. Uncredited and alphabetical listings include numerous Asgardian guards, soldiers, tourists, stagehands, and aliens who create a lived in universe. Voice and motion capture work for additional gods and creatures expands the pantheon. Stunt performers and utility players handle complex action sequences involving multiple combatants and environmental hazards. The breadth of the casting reflects Marvel's approach to world building, ensuring every scene feels populated and purposeful. Production notes highlight the collaborative atmosphere that encourage family participation and improvisational contributions from the ensemble. Costume, makeup, and effects teams coordinated with this large cast to maintain consistency across practical and digital elements. The collective performances support the film's dual focus on intimate character moments and large scale spectacle. Secondary characters in tourist, vendor, and patient roles provide tonal variety from comedy to pathos. Mythological figures beyond the principals introduce potential for expanded storytelling. The casting of established character actors alongside rising talents and family members creates a unique production dynamic. Overall, the supporting ensemble is essential to realizing the film's ambitious scope and tonal range. Casting themes and production context, the casting of Thor, Love and Thunder emphasizes continuity with prior MCU entries while introducing transformative new elements, particularly through Portman's expanded role and Bale's villainous debut. Returning players like Hemsworth, Thompson, Waititi, Alexander, and the Guardians provide familiar anchors, allowing the narrative to delve deeper into character development without extensive reintroduction. New and returning supporting roles populate New Asgard as a vibrant, tourist friendly community under Valkyrie's rule, contrasting the cosmic threats. Familial casting across Hemsworth, Portman, Waititi, and Bale families fosters a collaborative set environment noted in production accounts. Waititi's dual role as director, writer, performer unifies the creative vision, enabling improvisation that capitalizes on the ensemble's strengths. Physical and emotional demands vary widely. Hemsworth and Portman balance comedy with vulnerability and action. Bale commits to transformative makeup and intensity. Guardians contributors maintain established dynamics in crossover sequences. Mythological expansions via Crow, Goldstein, Beale, and others broaden the MCU's divine landscape. Medical and community supporting roles ground the fantastical in human and Asgardian realities. The overall casting strategy prioritizes chemistry, representation, and tonal flexibility, supporting the film's blend of romance, humor, action, and pathos. Extensive credits reflect the scale of a major studio production involving hundreds of performers across live action, voice, and motion capture work. This ensemble approach ensures that both principal arcs and background world building receive attention, creating a dense, engaging cinematic experience centered on the casting choices that define its characters and relationships. Production development and pre production, the seeds of Thor. Love and Thunder were planted almost immediately after Thor. Ragnarok hit theaters in late 2017. That film had reinvigorated the Thor franchise, both critically and commercially, blending self aware comedy with cosmic spectacle. And its director, Taika Waititi, sat down with Marvel Studios executive shortly afterward to brainstorm what a follow up could look like. The strength of the response to Ragnarok gave the studio confidence to move forward with another installment featuring the god of thunder Chris Hemsworth, who had played Thor since 2011, signaled in January 2018 that he wanted to keep the role alive within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even though his existing contract was slated to conclude with his appearance in Avengers Endgame. 2019, he and Waititi had already begun kicking around concepts for a prospective fourth Thor film. A month later, Hemsworth said he'd be open to returning, provided the material was strong enough to justify it. Tessa Thompson, who portrays Valkyrie, mentioned in April 2019 that she believed a pitch had already been floated for a Ragnarok sequel with Waititi back in the director's chair. Around the same time, Hemsworth credited Waititi with reigniting his enthusiasm for the character, admitting he had grown weary of playing Thor before Ragnarok reshaped his approach to the role. The project became official in July 2019 when Waititi formally signed on to write and direct the fourth Thor film, with Hemsworth expected to return as the lead. Waititi made it clear early on that he had no interest in simply recreating Ragnarok's formula. Instead, he wanted to push himself creatively and make something that felt distinct and personally engaging rather than repeating a successful template. Later that month, at San Diego Comic Con, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige unveiled the project's title, Thor, Love and Thunder, along with an initial release date of November 5, 2021. Hemsworth and Thompson were confirmed to be reprising their roles. And the studio also announced that Natalie Portman would return as Jane Foster, a character who had been notably absent from Ragnarok. Hemsworth, who also took on an executive producer credit for the film, reportedly received an upfront salary of $20 million, dollars, a jump from the $15 million dollars he had earned for each of his prior appearances in Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Endgame. Portman agreed to come back after a single meeting with Waititi, who had been granted creative latitude by Marvel to reshape her character in bold new ways, promising her the freedom to be playful and adventurous with the part. During this period, Thompson and Feige also revealed that Valkyrie's bisexuality would be explored on screen, a move that would retroactively establish her as Marvel Studios' first LGBTQ superhero. Marvel executive Brad Winderbaum joined Feige as a producer on the film. That same July, officials in the Australian state of New South Wales announced that the film would shoot at Fox Studios Australia in Sydney, scheduled back to back with another Marvel production, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, 2021. Work on Love and Thunder was originally intended to begin in March 2020, building toward a filming start in August 2020. The production was expected to draw more than $24 million, roughly $18 million in subsidies from Australian and New South Wales government sources. A Marvel Studios vice president noted that filming the two movies consecutively would give local crews steady work, projecting that Love and Thunder alone could generate over $178 million, about $134 million for the regional economy, along with plans to collaborate with local schools on internship programs. Casting news trickled out through the back half of 2019. Jeff Goldblum indicated in August that there was a possibility he might reprise his Ragnarok role as the Grand Master. And in October, Waititi confirmed that he himself would return as the voice and motion capture performer for Korg, the rock alien character he'd played in both Ragnarok and Endgame. Christian Bale entered negotiations to join the cast in January 2020, with pre-production expected to ramp up that April. The following month, Thompson confirmed Bale's casting as the film's antagonist. Around the same period, Vin Diesel, the voice of Groot in the MCU, mentioned he had spoken with Waititi and been informed that the Guardians of the Galaxy would make an appearance in the movie. The COVID-19 pandemic soon disrupted these plans. In early April 2020, Disney reshuffled much of its Phase 4 release calendar, pushing Love and Thunder's premiere back to February 18, 2022. Pre-production itself was delayed as a result of the pandemic, leaving Waititi uncertain about when work could resume. Later that same month, Disney moved the release date up slightly to February 11, 2022. By July 2020, the plan was for principal photography to begin in early 2021. When the project was first announced, Waititi indicated it would draw heavily from Jason Aaron's celebrated run of Mighty Thor comic books, in which Jane Foster becomes a superhero in her own right. Feige echoed this, stating that a great deal of Marvel Comics material would inform the film and that Foster's transformation into the Mighty Thor would be a central pillar of the story, describing the Source comics as among Marvel's best recent output. Waititi had read the comic run during his time working on Ragnarok, and once he committed to directing another Thor film, he pushed Marvel to let him bring Foster's Mighty Thor storyline to the screen. The studio agreed to adapt Aaron's arc and bring Portman back into the fold after conversations with Waititi about the story's direction. Waititi later said the production stayed close to the comics version of Foster's arc, trying to preserve its strongest elements. He also discussed how giving Thor his axe, Stormbreaker, while Mjolnir returns in someone else's hands, lets the film explore the idea of another character stepping into Thor's role, something he suspected fans anticipated, though he pushed back on the assumption that this was literally what was happening. Aaron himself was brought on as a consultant for the film. Separately, A.C. Bradley, the head writer of the animated anthology series, What If, had pitched an episode built around Foster becoming Thor, but the concept was turned down because the storyline was already earmarked for Love and Thunder. Reports in August 2019 suggested Waititi had already finished a script, though he disputed this later that month. While doing press for his 2019 film Jojo Rabbit that October, he revealed he had completed a first draft of the screenplay, while cautioning that the story would likely keep evolving through filming and editing. At that stage, he wasn't sure whether the film would incorporate the breast cancer storyline from Aaron's comics, which he considered one of the most powerful elements of the source material. Portman later confirmed that Foster's cancer treatment would indeed factor into the plot. Waititi also noted that Marvel was still working out how much time would have elapsed between Endgame and Love and Thunder, which would determine whether Thor still carried the extra weight seen in Endgame, a look that had earned him nicknames like Fat Thor and Bro Thor among fans. Waititi expressed a desire to keep reinventing Thor's look and personality across films, finding the character most compelling when he's in flux. The story is set roughly 8 years after Thor and Foster's breakup, placing the narrative around 2024. Waititi also addressed fan interest in pairing Valkyrie romantically with Brie Larson's Carol Danvers, explaining that he preferred surprising the audience over delivering something purely because it was popular. Jennifer Katin Robinson was brought on in February 2020 to collaborate with Waititi on the screenplay. Although Waititi received sole screenwriting credit on the theatrical poster, with Robinson credited alongside him for the story, the film's final credits, following Writers Guild of America adjudication, listed both of them as co writers. The narrative follows Thor as he searches for a sense of purpose, only to be pulled back into action alongside Valkyrie, Korg, and Foster to stop a villain called Gorr the God Butcher from wiping out every god in existence. By mid April 2020, 4 or 5 drafts of the script had already been produced. Waititi described the film at that stage as leaning fully into its most extreme and over the top instincts, joking it would make Ragnarok look tame by comparison. He said he wanted the film to feel like the wildest ideas a group of 10-year-olds might pitch, all greenlit without hesitation. He also planned to dig deeper into Korg's Kronan heritage and hinted at including the space sharks, an alien race from the comics. He expressed interest in the character Beta Ray Bill, but wasn't certain at that point whether he'd make it into the film. By the end of July 2020, Waititi revealed the script had been in development, on and off for more than a year, and that he was doing another revision pass that week. He described the tone as deeply romantic, explaining his desire to try his hand at a genuine love story, something he hadn't attempted before in his filmmaking career, essentially framing the entire film around that theme. He later summarized it as a story about love set against a backdrop of superheroes and outer space, saying he wanted to move past his usual skepticism toward romance and instead lean into showing characters who genuinely believe in love. That October, Hemsworth confirmed the script was still being refined and expressed enthusiasm about doing something dramatically different with Thor, continuing a pattern he'd followed in each of his 3 previous solo or team up appearances. Waititi would later call Love and Thunder the most chaotic film he'd ever made, saying every creative choice was designed to defy conventional logic. He wanted the sequel to carry its own unique identity apart from Ragnarok, which he described as resembling a 1970s space opera with a celebratory festival like energy. By contrast, he envisioned Love and Thunder as an homage to 1980s adventure films, citing poster art from movies like Conan the Barbarian 1982 and The Beastmaster 1982, along with the aesthetic of custom van art seen around Venice Beach. He also cited the artwork of comics legend Jack Kirby and vintage Mills and Boon romance novel covers as key visual reference points. Waititi stressed that the film wasn't meant to be taken too seriously or played for heavy drama, even as it grappled with themes of love, loss, and finding one's place in the world, pushing its characters to confront questions about purpose and heroism. The resolution involving the character Love Gore's daughter went through several rounds of rewrites before the filmmakers settled on a final version. James Gunn, who wrote and directed all 3 Guardians of the Galaxy films, served as a consultant on how those characters were incorporated into Love and Thunder. He and Waititi discussed the trajectory of the Guardians before Waititi started writing, and the two later swapped scripts. Waititi read Gunn's screenplay for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 2023, which takes place after the events of Love and Thunder, while Gunn reviewed Waititi's script and offered feedback, requesting a handful of adjustments. In January 2021, Gunn expressed confidence that the Guardians were in good creative hands with Waititi at the helm, later praising the finished screenplay. Chris Pratt noted that the film would continue the antagonistic dynamic between his character, Star Lord, and Thor that had been set up in Infinity War and Endgame, while Karen Gillan said Waititi drew out an especially unhinged, aggressive side of her character. Nebula pre production formally kicked off in Australia by October 2020. The following month, Chris Pratt's return as Star-Lord was confirmed. Given how many established characters and actors were converging on the project, some industry observers began referring to it informally as feeling like Avengers 5 due to its ensemble scale. In December 2020, Feige announced yet another release delay, pushing the film to May 6, 2022, while also confirming that Christian Bale would play Gorr the God Butcher. Jamie Alexander was likewise confirmed to be reprising her role as Sif, a character absent from Ragnarok, alongside a wave of other Guardians of the Galaxy cast members. Tom Clementieff as Mantis, Dave Bautista as Drax the Destroyer, Karen Gillan as Nebula, and Sean Gunn as Kraglin of Fonteri, with Gunn also providing on-set physical reference for the CGI character Rocket. Matt Damon was also set to return, having previously made a cameo in Ragnarok as an Asgardian stage actor portraying Loki. Damon received special clearance to travel into Australia despite the country's strict pandemic era border controls on the basis that the production was creating local jobs. This decision drew public criticism since Damon traveled with his family, while many Australian citizens abroad found themselves unable to return home during the same period. Sam Neill, who had appeared alongside Damon in Ragnarok playing an actor portraying Odin, said there was a strong chance he'd also be involved, contingent on being able to travel from New Zealand to Australia amid pandemic restrictions. Costume design fell to Mae C. Rubio, who had also handled costumes for Ragnarok. For Love and Thunder, she aimed to craft outfits that stayed true to the comics while reinforcing the established mythology of the characters. Constructing Jane Foster's costume alone required 10 separate set builds. Rubio based the design on classic comic depictions while incorporating flexible, technologically advanced materials befitting a hero. Because Portman is vegan, Rubio made a point of using synthetic materials such as plastics rather than animal derived fabrics. To visually distinguish Foster's look from Thor's, Rubio incorporated silver metallic tones and deeper reds into her costume, along with a winged helmet, contrasting with the newer color scheme used for Thor's own suit. In total, Rubio designed 25 different costumes for Hemsworth, several of which featured bolder colors, reds, blues, and metallic golds, to match the film's exaggerated visual style. One particular Thor costume, worn during a 1980s style sequence, took inspiration from Kurt Russell's character in the 1986 film Big Trouble in Little China, and generally leaned flashier compared to Foster's more understated design. Gore's costume broke from the pattern of staying faithful to the comics. Unlike most other characters, his look was substantially redesigned for the film, with Rubio drawing on classical sculpture for inspiration during the draping process. To create visual contrast against the film's otherwise vibrant palette, she used white rather than black for his costume, underscoring his otherworldly nature. Roughly 50 yards of linen were used to conceal wiring and climate control equipment built into the costume, helping keep Bale from overheating during filming. Leather craftsmen Augusto and Giampaolo Grassi were brought in to construct a gold-leafed breastplate for Zeus's costume. Filming principal photography began on January 26, 2021, at Fox Studios Australia in Sydney, operating under the working title The Big Salad. Barry Bazidoin served as cinematographer, having previously collaborated with Waititi on the Disney Plus Star Wars series The Mandalorian. The shoot had originally been slated to start in August 2020, but was pushed back by the pandemic. Industrial Light and Magic supplied the same stagecraft virtual production system used on The Mandalorian, an episode of which Waititi had directed, building a bespoke LED volume at the Sydney studio that featured more panels and higher resolution than the setup originally used for that series. Waititi also employed Satellite Labs' plate light rig, an evolution of the dynamic light technology he'd previously used on Ragnarok, which captures several different lighting configurations simultaneously within a single take at high frame rate, giving him flexibility to choose the desired lighting scheme later in post-production. Waititi felt his prior experience on a Marvel production allowed him to shoot Love and Thunder with greater efficiency than he'd managed on Ragnarok. Location filming took place at Centennial Park in Sydney in early February 2021, and Clementieff, Gillan, Bautista, and Pratt Each wrapped their scenes shortly thereafter. By early March, set photos confirmed that Matt Damon and Sam Neill were once again playing the Asgardian stage actors, portraying Loki and Odin, joined by Luke Hemsworth reprising his Ragnarok role as the actor playing Thor. Melissa McCarthy was also revealed to be playing an actress portraying Hela, appearing alongside her real life husband Ben Falcone in an undisclosed role. Both featured in a sequence depicting a theatrical reenactment of events from Ragnarok. Damon's scenes were shot over the course of 2 days. Alexander completed her filming by the end of March. Around the same time, Goldblum was confirmed to be appearing as the Grandmaster, and Russell Crowe's involvement was revealed as what was described as a light-hearted cameo. Crowe wrapped his scenes in late April, at which point his role as Zeus was officially confirmed. He had originally been cast to play Satanfur before the character was changed to Zeus. Actor Septimus Catton was later cast as Satan and underwent makeup and prosthetic testing for the role, but that character was ultimately cut from the finished film. At the start of May 2021, YTT indicated there were roughly 4 weeks of shooting left, while Idoine noted he expected to remain involved with the film's visual work through the end of the year. Principal photography wrapped on June 1, 2021. Around that time, Neil revealed that singer Jenny Morris would appear in the film in a cameo as a new Asgard resident. Ultimately, several notable actors and sequences were left on the cutting room floor. Both Goldblum's Grandmaster and Peter Dinklage's Eitri, a character from Infinity War, had their scenes removed from the theatrical cut, as did a sequence featuring Lena Headey, Angus Sampson, and Davine Joy Randolph as a coven of witches described as very funny and kind of insane, who were meant to guide Thor through the underworld. Post production early June 2021, YT stated. He expected post production to wrap by February 2022. Later that month, Vin Diesel's return as the voice of Groot was officially confirmed. In October 2021, Disney once again delayed the film's release, this time to July 8, 2022. Around the same period, Simon Russell Beale was confirmed for an undisclosed role, later revealed to be the Olympian god Dionysus, though the scene in which he appeared as Dionysus was ultimately cut, leaving him with only a background extra role in the finished film. Additional photography took place in early 2022, with further reshoots reported to be happening in the coming weeks as of early March, and confirmed to have begun with Bale around the week of March 18. That April's teaser trailer confirmed Bradley Cooper's return as the voice of Rocket, and the following month, Akosisha Sabat was revealed to be playing the goddess Bast. After Brett Goldstein's appearance as Hercules in the film's mid-credits scene became public, YTT revealed in July 2022 that Feige had specifically pushed for Goldstein to land that role. A number of characters and concepts were floated during development but never made it to the screen or appeared only in minor form. These included Faligar the Behemoth, one of the gods killed by Gorr, and the cosmic entity Eternity, both of which did appear in the finished film. Alongside Thor's magical goats, named Toothgnasher and Toothgrinder, after the Norse mythological animals, Tangrisner and Tannjoster, and Valkyrie's winged steed, renamed Warsong from its comic book name Aragon after having appeared unnamed in both Ragnarok and Endgame. YTT had originally planned a cutaway gag featuring a cameo from Jesus in the Omnipotent City sequence, triggered by a Valkyrie line referencing a god of carpentry, though this did not make the final cut. The villain Sitorak was also considered as one of the deities populating Omnipotent City before the idea was scrapped. Concept storyboards by artist Anthony Lee Wynn suggest that Galactus, Fin Fang Foom, and Shuma Gorath were likewise considered for inclusion. Shuma Gorath ultimately appeared instead in the same year's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness under the alternate name Gargantos. Visual effects work was spread across a large roster of studios, including Weta FX, Rising Sun Pictures, Framestore, Industrial Light and Magic, Method Studios, Luma Pictures, Reynolds VFX, Base FX, EDI Effetti Digitali Italiani, Mamal Studios, Fin Design Plus Effects, and Synsight. Matthew Schmidt, Peter S. Elliott, Tim Roche, and Jennifer Vecchiarello served as editors on the film, while Jake Morrison oversaw the project as visual effects supervisor. The studio Perception designed the film's stylized main on-end title sequence, pulling inspiration from 1980s rock band logo design and crafting around 250 custom fonts specifically for that sequence. Music Michael Giacchino was announced as the film's composer in December 2021. He had previously scored Marvel's Doctor Strange 2016 and the studio's Spider-Man trilogy, as well as Waititi's earlier film Jojo Rabbit, a soundtrack album featuring Giacchino's original score composed together with Nami Melumad, was released through Hollywood Records and Marvel Music on July 6, 2022. Ahead of the full album, the score's main suite, titled Mama's Got a Brand New Hammer, was released as a single on June 30. Waititi wanted the music to match the film's visual sensibility, describing his intended aesthetic as bombastic, loud, and colorful. Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child O' Mine is featured prominently in the film. YTT has cited Guns N' Roses as one of his favorite bands and felt the song captured the sense of chaotic, larger than life adventure the film was going for visually. The track also played a significant role in the film's marketing campaign, most notably in the teaser trailer. The film additionally features Dio's Rainbow in the Dark. According to Wendy Dio, widow of the band's frontman, Ronnie James Dio, release marketing merchandising tied to the film began rolling out well ahead of release. Lego sets and Hasbro action figures inspired by the movie were unveiled in February 2022, followed by additional Lego products and Funko Pop figures that April. The first teaser trailer arrived on April 18, 2022, and quickly became a talking point for its closing moments, which revealed Natalie Portman's Foster in her Mighty Thor costume wielding a restored Mjolnir. Critics highlighted the trailer's use of Sweet Child O' Mine, with one writer for Collider suggesting it signaled YTT's intent to preserve the hard rock energy that had helped make Ragnarok such a hit, while a writer for The Hollywood Reporter described the trailer as bright, stylish, and characteristically YTT in tone. A writer at Digital Spy felt the humor that had defined Ragnarok was clearly present again, while a critic for TechRadar likened the trailer to a glam rock sensory experience that effectively built anticipation. Commentators from The Ringer and Empire both drew attention to the trailer's emphasis on Thor's personal journey of self discovery and its conspicuous lack of footage from Bale's Gorr storyline. One noted the trailer felt worlds, apart from the more traditional tone of the earliest Thor films, calling the franchise's evolution into something closer to space comedy. The other suggested the introspective focus made sense given the film's placement in the timeline after Endgame, describing the trailer as short but engaging. Within its first 24 hours online, the teaser racked up 209 million views globally, making it the seventh most viewed trailer within that time frame at the point of release. A second trailer debuted on May 23rd, 2022, during Game 4 of the NBA's Eastern Conference Finals. This trailer drew much more attention to Bale's performance as Gorr. A writer for Inverse praised Bale's take on the character as genuinely frightening, while noting that Hemsworth's Thor appeared ready to hand off the mantle to Portman's character. A critic for Ars Technica observed that Gorr's scenes used a distinctly desaturated grey toned color palette that heightened the contrast with the film's otherwise vivid visuals. A writer for Entertainment Tonight felt the trailer delivered on the promise of the earlier teaser, pointing to glimpses of the mighty Thor. Thor embracing his space Viking persona and expanded Gorr footage, the AV. Club's critics likewise praised the trailer's mix of dramatic and comedic beats, citing a moment where Zeus strips away Thor's disguise. A Forbes critic called the second trailer far more substantial than the teaser, comparing its aesthetic to the Masters of the Universe franchise, and speculated with some skepticism about a possible rekindled romance between Thor and Foster more than a decade after their initial relationship, while also praising the visual treatment of Gorr's scenes and the dynamic between Foster and Valkyrie. Footage from the film was also showcased at the 2022 CineEurope industry presentation. Beauty retailer Ulta partnered with Marvel Studios on a themed cosmetics line tied to the film's release. On July 9, 2022, YTT and Thompson appeared in a Vanity Fair video series breaking down the movie's Taste the Rainbow sequence. The segment drew backlash from some viewers who felt the pair came across as making light of the visual effects work, criticism that landed with added weight because it coincided with public statements from several Marvel visual effects artists describing poor pay and grueling working conditions on the studio's productions theatrical Thor. Love and Thunder held its premiere at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood, Los Angeles on June 23, 2022. It opened theatrically in Australia on July 6, followed by the United Kingdom, Ireland, and New Zealand on July 7, and finally the United States on July 8, 2022, screening in a range of premium formats including 4DX, Real D 3D, IMAX, ScreenX, and Dolby Cinema. The film's path to release had been anything but straightforward. It was originally slated for November 5, 2021, pushed to February 18, 2022 due to pandemic related disruption, moved up slightly to February 11 after Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness shifted its own release from November 2021 to March 2022, delayed again to May 6, 2022, and finally settled on its eventual July 2022 date. The film is part of Phase 4 of the MCU. In July 2022, the El Capitan Theatre also hosted two sensory inclusive screenings, offering expedited check in, a calmer lobby environment, reduced seating capacity, and gift bags containing items designed to help with anxiety. The film did not receive a theatrical release in several countries: Malaysia, Brunei, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Oman, Qatar, and Jordan due to its LGBT related content. According to Variety, the Malaysian release fell through after Disney declined to make cuts requested by the country's film censorship board, and the Malaysian government subsequently confirmed the refusal centered on the film's LGBT elements remaining intact. Despite this, the film did eventually become available via Disney Plus in the Middle East region on September 8, 2022,